Here's a little history lesson. In the 80s, a bad man took away the rules that said you can't make shows designed to sell things to kids. This deregulation led to shows like He-Man, G.I. Joe, and most importantly, Transformers. These shows focused on having tons of brightly colored characters to sell action figures, and mostly focused on a status quo that consisted of the bad guy doing a thing and then getting thwarted by the good guys. Japan was making some mature, story-driven stuff at the time, but in the States, the medium of animation was largely considered kid stuff, and it still kinda is. As a result, there was even less reason for animated television shows to have good plots. Why waste good talent on a show that exists to sell kids sugar cereal? This started to shift in the mid-90s. Young talent were being given chances to reinvigorate old IP to sell more toys, and every now and again, you'd strike gold. That's what I'm here to talk to you about with today's video, and here's my clickbaity title. Beast Wars was the original Steven Universe. I'm completely serious. Stick with me here and I'm going to take you on a long walk that's really just an excuse to gush about a show that's important to me. First, I'm going to take you through the plot so you aren't confused about some of the details, and then I'm going to tell you what it taught me about storytelling techniques and why it's important to give young kids content with, well, content to it. Hopefully you leave this video with some understanding of the show and what it did for me other than give me a crush on a husky-voiced robot bird woman. Here we go! Beast Wars was a computer-animated TV show that was put in place to revitalize the then-in-trouble Transformers toy line. And it was actually made by some of the people that made some of those shows I was talking about. By the way, it totally saved Transformers as a whole, and you're welcome, Michael Bay. Anyway, the show follows two groups of the titular binary shapeshifters that are descendants of the Autobots and Decepticons. The Maximals, led by Optimus Primal, yeah, okay, are chasing the Predacons, led by Megatron, not the original recipe Megatron, by the way, through space. They go through a warp gate, they end up on a Mario Kart 64-ass world that looks like prehistoric Earth. And it is, but right away there's two moons, so it plants the mystery in your head of what's going on from the beginning. Like I said, both factions crash on Earth, which as it turns out has insane levels of an energy source called Energon. Too much exposure to Energon is bad for the Transformers, so this is the excuse to get them to scan their surroundings for animal forms to assume for protection from the Energon radiation while they try to figure out how to get home. From here it's your standard kids sci-fi complete with fake swears.
I'll blow your slagging heads off! Well, that's just prime.
We have a few episodes developing characters and minimal stakes adventures, then some kinky stuff happens, and then that second moon from before turns out to be no moon at all. Our heroes blow it up, causing some new character designs because, yeah, you gotta sell new toys. From there we find out that Megatron really went back in time on purpose in order to kill the Autobots who are dormant in this mountain from crashing here in the long, long ago. There are some scrambles and shakeups, but eventually our heroes barely make it off the planet with their lives after literally arresting Megatron, which is hilarious. Within the series, there are some real primo episodes and moments. Megatron blows up the original Optimus Prime's head, don't worry, he gets better. The aliens behind that second moon make a few returns, reminding the viewer that there's more at stake here than just good guy versus bad guy. And Dinobot single-handedly fends off the bad guys from attacking a group of prehistoric humans, thus saving the future, sacrificing himself, and giving us what is arguably one of the best Transformers episodes of all time.
Tell my tale to those who ask. Tell it truly. The ill deeds, along with the good, and let me be judged accordingly. The rest is silence.
Sure, there were lots of episodes that were goofy and for no reason, like the time Rhinox got a cold or whatever, but there were also episodes where Ravage from the OG series comes back in time as a spy and double-crosses the good guys after he arrests Megatron because Megatron is a piece of the Golden Disc, yes, the Carl Sagan one, that has a message on it somehow from the OG Megatron about how if future generations of Decepticons can work out the tech to go back in time, they can kill the Autobots and install a galactic bad guy empire.
Decepticons forever!
That old chestnut. The sequel series, Beast Machines, was pretty bad and somewhat regarded as a millennial fever dream, but there's no denying the success of the original show, which brought back Transformers into the pop culture landscape, rebooting their popularity in a new era of cartoons and toys that hasn't quit yet. Beast Wars also pushed the format of serialized Western cartoons. Because of the animation style, it was really hard and expensive to have a million characters on screen at once like in the G1 days, so the creative team focused on smaller teams of Transformers, and this led to rich, developed characters, which automatically leads to higher stakes since the viewer actually got to know the side characters. In fact, characters that were in danger could and actually did die, and not just for voice actors leaving or budgetary reasons. They did it when it was appropriate for the story or theme. This messed me up as a kid. Pterosaur, Scorponok, Dinobot, Tigertron, Airazor, Dinobot again, and a bunch more characters actually die. Not many shows did this in 1996. Shows were mostly gross-out humor and stuff like Life with Louie around the time. I'm not saying that a show with a serialized story that eventually gets serious is inherently better, but I am saying that Beast Wars was extremely important at the time for the medium and led to the current golden era of serialized cartoon shows like Adventure Time and Steven Universe. Ever since the 80s, characters and cartoons existed to sell toys, and don't get me wrong, that is explicitly what this show was made for. But the characters and how they played off of one another were far better than they needed to be, culminating to something special, and this is where the Steven Universe stuff comes into play. It's a little tropey nowadays to have a goofy kid show turn into a high-stakes, fate-of-the-world, plot-driven affair, but as far as I can tell, Beast Wars was one of the first animated Western shows that did this sort of thing and pulled it off to critical and commercial acclaim. The Batman animated series was going on at this time as well, and that got some pretty good moments in as well, but Beast Wars was a serialized thing and Batman was kind of a villain of the week affair. Plenty of shows in the past had typical villains that wanted to take over the world in every episode, but there was something special that made Beast Wars different, and I'm going to try to drill down and define what it is here. Since this is a Lessons Animation Taught Us video, I'm going to get deep here and say that Beast Wars, for all its goofy, dumb, weird, pointless shit, had heart. I didn't go to see movies as a kid. I just had a puffy VHS case Disney movie or two, so I watched a lot of TV. This dumb show about the gorilla and his friend the Ratman with the metal brain was what showed me, hey, the way you get people to care about your story is to have great characters and put them in interesting situations. As an adult of 27 or 28 or some other number, I can look at this show as a shining example of some of my favorite tropes and how to do them well. Old guard mentor-mentee relationships with Cheetor and Tigatron, bad guy gone good guy with Dinobot, who is much better than Vegeta, don't at me. Optimus being a leader with personality that we believe in, Rhinox being the big strong guy that's gentle and smart as hell, romance we actually care about because the couples work and play off one another, Tigatron and Airazor, Silverbolt and Black Arachnia, forget about it. Tropes can come across as hokey if they're done wrong, and Beast Wars has its own failings, to be sure. But the things it did right really instilled in me that tropes exist for a reason, and they can be the clay that a storyteller molds together to make something new and interesting. You watch a lot of shows as a kid. I know I did. When you're a kid, your whole life is pretty much spare time. So you tend to soak up a lot of garbage because standards of work environments for animation studios force people to try and pump out whatever the investors think will sell merchandise. And like I said, this show was that. The difference here, and something I love so much about Beast Wars as a whole, was that the people who worked on this show took limitations, put passion and effort into it, and were able to work within those limitations to make something that sparked a love for storytelling in at least one kid by simplifying, developing characters, and creating interesting scenarios to put them in. I see a lot of that spirit in modern Western cartoon shows now, and I think that in some ways, they owe at least a little bit to this weird show.
Whoa, that was ultra gear!
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Entertainment System. This is a Lessons Animation Taught Us video, so I'm going to probably link to the playlist that Mikey made of them in the description here. Thanks to him for starting this whole thing off. Hope I did it justice. As always, these videos are supported by my patrons on Patreon. The link is in the description for that as well. Go there and chuck in a buck, and you can get your name on here. With that, I hope you have a great day today and every day thereafter. Peace.